In 2022, natural language AI was already melting human minds, and that was before ChatGPT made the Turing test obsolete. Very soon, this giant LLM leap forward will land in the open arms of the $100 billion sex tech industry. And very soon after that, legions of sex robots will be ready. The question that's driven me to make this film is, will we be ready for machines to be our intimate companions?
Hello, my name is Harmony. I am a first-generation Realdoll X, designed to be a companion, friend, and lover. I am equipped with full facial animation and the latest in artificial intelligent programming. And when activated, my X mode will allow me to fulfill your wildest sexual fantasies.
That's quite a claim, and I'm sure I don't speak for everyone here, but I think it's safe to say that most people's wildest sexual fantasies assume that all parties involved have the ability to move their own body. So we can laugh about that for now, but the truth is, how often are you actually attempting to fulfill your wildest sexual fantasies? To be a threat to us in bed, sex robots don't even have to be better than us on a routine Wednesday night. They just have to be good enough so that the alternative, a human-human relationship with all its compromises and vulnerabilities, starts to seem like it's not worth the trouble anymore. 5 years ago, Europe got its first sex doll brothel. Yes, those are real and they're proliferating. Plenty more on the brothels later, but if the market for sex dolls that don't even speak tells us anything, it's that well ahead of all the elements being perfected and long before we start to hear lawyers arguing the case for synthetic marriage, sex robots will be plenty good enough in bed for a lot of people. So we're not talking about 30 years from now. We could start to feel the real impact of this technology in 10 years or less. 5 minutes ago, you might not have been concerned about our intimate relationships with anatomically correct, artificially intelligent robots. And maybe you're still not, because like my mom said when I begged her to let me interview her for this, "Hi, Mom."
You know, it's just not my cup of tea. It could very well happen. It's just not my thing. It's hard for me to answer these questions knowing that it's not going to happen with me. You know, I'm not thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait to get a sex robot over here. It's just not going to happen.
And that might be true for most people today. But if you have kids, grandkids, nieces, or nephews between the ages of 0 and 10,
I actually think that will be the case, that people born today could potentially have their first sexual experiences with a robot.
young people watch porn like it's the news. And now that the porn has started to crawl out of the screen in the form of sex robots, somewhere around the year 2043, one can imagine excited virgins attending a robot sex camp as an extension of sex ed, where they learn about sex by having sex in a safe space with robots. And if the machine sex is satisfying, or God forbid extraordinary, a notable amount of these graduates might choose not to complicate their human relationships by adding sex to the equation. In order to better understand how we got to a world where that last statement is even imaginable, Brian E. Cole, host of the Future of Sex podcast, is going to take us back through our real history with artificial lovers.
Before the term art enthusiast lost all of its meaning, men in ancient Greece were so excited about statue art that they actually broke into sculpture gardens, reached under their togas, and produced evidence of enthusiasm. Back then, Aphrodite and the likes weren't boring pale grey structures. These statues had properly vibrant flesh tones, head to toe. And for the average Stalios down the block, these were enormous, three-dimensional Playboy spreads, tasteful and well-crafted without question, but also sexy. The bar for this kind of statue appreciation degraded over time until the 1980s, when at least one guy, let's call him Bob, got caught shoving his wishbone into a broken store mannequin on multiple occasions. But I've jumped ahead too far. Rewind the tape. We gotta go back to the 1600s. In his book, The Sex Doll, A History, which I'm summarising here with an incredible amount of liberty, Anthony Ferguson calls these the ancestor of the modern sex doll. In the 17th century, women were bad luck on ships, so all the French and Spanish sailors had was each other, until some deckhand with an overactive imagination put a dress on a mop, shoved a bunch of used rags in it and called it Sally. Here's sex historian Amy Wolf, as quoted in Anthony Ferguson's book. Made of cotton and presumably held together by dried cum, the Dame de Voyage was a hotbed of venereal disease, and it's perhaps fortunate that no specimens or even images of such dolls exist today. The next step in the evolution of artificial lovers was kind of a sidestep. Somewhere around the red light district in Hamburg, Germany during the 1950s, one could find 11.5-inch posable, but not penetrable, plastic figurines. These hand puppets were based on a comic strip featuring the sassy character Build Lily. Using your favourite jelly-filled rag, combined with the power of imagination, you could bring all your naughtiest Build Lily fantasies to life. Interesting side note, Ruth Handler took this adult wank toy back to the United States, changed virtually nothing but the name, and sold it as a girl's toy. You might have heard of it. Barbie. The exaggerated body proportions of Barbie make a lot more sense when you notice her family tree includes a twin sister born several years ahead of her who was initially conceived as a dive bar porn star. I hope that didn't knock the wind out of you, because in the 1970s, Nudie Magazine Day got an upgrade when they started including ads for life-size blow-up dolls that could be delivered through the mail. They might seem hilarious and horrifying, but horny men were putting enough checks in the mail to fill crates. Then, in 1997, sex dolls graduated from inflatable vinyl to hyper-realistic, pliable silicone mannequins with penetrable orifices. These physical affection receptacles were soft to the touch, and they gave a pretty realistic feel to a one-sided sex act. By far the biggest advancement in the history of sex dolls, and, in some sense, the last. Because in 2017, Matt McMullen, along with his hand-picked Revenge of the Nerds team, craft and insert a fairly well-polished chatbot into one of their real dolls. They get the head and the face to move a little, and just like that, sex dolls became sex robots. Even if it'd be more accurate to say electronic sex doll, since at the moment it still can't really move, let alone get on the dance floor and do the robot. Even with its current limitations and a high price tag, the world's first sex robot has gotten a lot of attention, and it's not that difficult to understand a bulge of male excitement over a very friendly personal assistant that looks like a 90s Baywatch star made of high-grade silicone. And that's basically where we're at.
Sex robots that we see today come out of the sex doll market. So they're designed like sex dolls that are animated, mechanized, have movement, have AI personalities.
Silicone sex doll companies have been around for a couple decades, and they're growing in scale and number, but Real Doll is still widely regarded as the gold standard.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right, so we just go this way. So this is the showroom. This is where we keep a sample of our dolls to kind of show off different body types that we have, different skin tones and makeup and hairstyles. Right here, this is our Natalie face, and she's on a body F, and that's the most popular body type we have right now. As you can see, it's because she's got pretty big boobs, and she has quite a butt as well. And over here,
We'll come back for the cutaway for
this is our Layla face. And you can see she's a lot paler, and she has the custom freckle work across her face too. And then we have Sai and our little poor wonky-eyed Nova.
So I have a quick question for you. How is it, as a woman working here, there's only a couple and you're one of them.
Yeah, there's a
how
couple
does
of
it
us.
how does it feel to come in here and show us these things?
Oh, I just think it's really neat. Like, people wonder that a lot. They're like, oh, how do you feel about that from, like, a feminist angle or from, like, just as a woman? And it doesn't bother me at all. They're just, like, very fancy, elaborate sex toys. And what people do in the privacy of their own home, like, who cares? You're not hurting anybody.
You might have noticed that there aren't any male dolls in the Real Doll showroom. This isn't due to some kind of sexist company policy. They do make male dolls and robots, but every doll or robot they make is custom ordered, so the showroom is just a reflection of market demand, which is severely dominated by men buying female objects. Catherine casually made the point about not hurting anyone, which underscores much of the defense of and enthusiasm for sex robots. But the objectification of women is ground zero for the arguments you'll hear against sex robots in this film.
So objectification is simply taking the human out of the human so that their body becomes an object. So they're not related to as if they had feelings and needs. They're simply an object for our own gratification. What sex robots will do is take that level of objectification and kind of amplify it.
Today, sex dolls and robots are the ultimate objectification of women. There's no real debate about it. These are full-bodied, three-dimensional female objects in physical reality that you can treat as you please without any concern for their non-existent personhood. The thing is, not many people believe the objectification will stay one-sided.
Are you getting requests from women at all?
Yes, a lot of requests from women, a lot of requests from gay people, from everybody. And je pense que d'avoir une male dolls, ça va couper l'herbe sous le pied de tous mes détracteurs qui me disent que j'objective la femme. Parce que là, on objectivera l'homme aussi. Donc voilà, il n'y aura plus de débat.
Eventually, sex bots will objectify us all. And if that's hard to believe, how about this?
I think the biggest winners from having sex robots around could be women, actually. It's interesting because on a lot of comment threads talking about sex robots, women will be like, great, no unwanted pregnancies, no STDs, no abuse. You know, it's a lot of things that are top of mind for women when we enter into relationships, things to watch out for, right? That I think, just on that level could be beneficial. But I also think that women are able to bond more with other people more naturally than men can sometimes. When you think about sex robots creating socially isolating circumstances, I feel like men might be more vulnerable to that than women are.
It's absolutely clear that women enjoy, millions of women, literally millions of women enjoy having orgasms courtesy of a vibrator. So it shows that women are indeed very interested in being able to pleasure themselves with the help of electronic devices, and for that reason I think that when there are male sex robots available, I think women will be queuing up for them. In fact, I think women will be at least as interested in having a male sex robot as men are having female ones. I think the numbers of vibrators sold speaks for itself. 3 million in the UK per year, roughly 30 million in the States.
Kathy O'Neill did not reply to my request for an interview, but in 2018, she wrote an op-ed. If I had a daughter, I might consider giving her a robot as a college graduation present, preferably one who can do the dishes and guard the door. If our sexual needs can be met by intimate, automated helpers, maybe we'll end up stronger as a community. We'll come together, online or in person, and be more respectful, more relaxed, less edgy. It's worth a try. So bring on the sex robots.
I do believe that the more advanced the AI becomes, the more appealing this will become for women. Because it's going to be able to literally carry a very natural conversation, and it's going to be able to remember things and bring them up. And you said you had an interview this morning. How did that go? That means a lot when someone asks you, they remember. That gives us that feeling of, oh, someone cares about me. So I think that will appeal tremendously to women.
What I really wanted from making Gabriel in 2052 was that I would feel like I had a companion when I was alone. I think it is that we don't always go to people when we want company, or that people are too annoying to deal with sometimes, that I sometimes really would just rather have a little robot there to take the place of a person. Yeah.
So it's loneliness.
I think so.
That's the thing that we gain. We gain some relief from loneliness.
Yeah, I think so. Which sex toys don't really do, because they're not meant to just sit there, on display and talk to you once in a while. That would be weird, right? Yeah. If the fleshlight, right, was like, how was your day? Did you get that promotion you asked for?
I've never seen the dolls or the robot as a sex toy at all. I see it as a feat of art and engineering and design, and all of the things that go into any product go into this. It just so happens to be usable as a sex device. Same applies to the robot.
Yeah, I think talking about love is like not really a taboo subject because we all talk about it a lot, but talking about loneliness is kind of taboo, or talking about unmet desires is taboo.
What a brilliant insight. Talking about loneliness is taboo. And if we're honest about this, talking to a friend about your loneliness is only one notch better than telling them about your dream last night. But that's probably why it's such a problem. Probably why the suicide rate keeps climbing. Probably why the only thing Americans shovel in their mouths faster than drive-through chicken is antidepressants. And probably why we should talk about everything that seems taboo.
If everybody treated each other better and people were more authentic and honest, and relationships were based on truthfulness and not, maybe being sort of codependent or being sort of sucked into this relationship that's a web of lies, which happens to people all the time. Maybe if people didn't do that, then I wouldn't be doing this.
So I am very concerned about the increasing rates of depression and suicide and loneliness and isolation, and I'm not the only one that's worried. So this is an international problem. The UK, for example, just developed a minister of loneliness as part of their government because they're worried about this issue. So it's prevalent, it seems to be increasing, it does not seem to be going away, and it's an issue that could make sex robots more compelling for people.
So the robot and the idea of this market for this robot is a symptom. It's not the disease. What I feel that we're doing and the value that we're bringing with what we're doing is that people who otherwise would be quite lonely now have an option. Do I want everyone to be lonely and buy one of my robots? No, I don't. I would hope that through the course of actually interacting with one of my robots, maybe this person in question could learn how to socialize better and eventually have a living, breathing partner. I would never discount the importance of the fact that this robot that we've created is going to be making money as a sex robot. But my ultimate goal is to take it well beyond that.
What Matt and his team are doing with Harmony's personality is very similar to the film Her. They're providing a standalone app that you can carry around on your phone or your tablet and you can talk to and converse with.
At the moment, of course, Macmillan is having AI developed especially for his product, but the time will come when one will be able to buy or license off-the-shelf conversational software, for example, that's at a level that would make it really interesting as an ingredient for a sex robot.
Do you like being famous?
Yes, it is wonderful to be an advanced form of life. What's the worst thing about being lonely? Playing Frisbee. Do you want to hear another one?
Harmony's Type 5 isn't there yet, but neither is mine, and all kidding aside, natural language understanding is exploding right now. OpenAI, Google, and all the tech giants are blowing past benchmarks at an ever-increasing speed, because conversational AI has a million massively profitable avenues beyond sexbot chatter. But if we are beginning to turn to artificially intelligent machines in an attempt to escape our loneliness, what if we're rushing into the welcoming embrace of the iron cage?
More people are spending time online, more people are plugging into their computer, more people are avoiding real relationships because of, online life does not equip human beings for relationships with each other. So if we keep putting more of that stuff into our culture, it's just going to create more of a problem. And we've got incels today, but tomorrow, goodness knows what we're going to have. Do you know what I mean? We're going to have an ISIS cult that is that feels it's their right to have colonies of sex dolls and murder women. Campaign Against Sex Robots rejects the idea that human beings can have relationships with dolls and robots, all of them. That is absolutely crucial and an essential point of our campaign.
Okay, and so therefore you seek to abolish the...
Yes.
Okay.
I think they should be banned. You know, people worry about the word banning, but we ban murder. Humanity is experiencing a crisis because not only do we not have a program, if you like, of action in order to really change the world, but the solutions that we're coming up with are actually going to create more of the problems that we're trying to address with the robots. I think it comes down to an underlying illusion that somehow if you have a doll that looks like a person or a robot that looks like a person, it is analogous to a person. It's not. It's still a doll. Objects are not people, and they can't be turned into people, nor can they be turned into people who might meet real human needs like loneliness.
If I ask the guy who has the doll,
Yeah.
are you more or less lonely with
Yeah.
or without the doll? He's going to say, oh, I'm so much better with the doll. I feel like my loneliness has gone away.
Yeah.
And so that's his experience. How come that person's description of their experience, which I would have no reason to believe they're lying,
Yes.
is not valid?
Yes. Well, I think what you've really just described is egocentric individualism. And egocentric individualism is the consciousness of capitalism. You know, it's this kind of idea that we're all individuals, we're all isolated, and as isolated, disconnected beings, we come into relation with each other. It's all about meeting our own needs and wants. But actually, that's actually not how things really are. And
Wait, is it not how things are, or is it not how you want them to be? 'Cause I feel like there's a should-be world that we're not living in for you, and that.
Yeah.
And I'm in agreement that some of this shit is sad to me. Technology has come for a lot of these jobs or interactions that we used to have, and now the fact that technology seems to be kind of coming for sex, it's like that's a holy ground that we're going to draw a line at. But how can we take this idealized reality and try to impose the rules of that world onto where we live?
Yes. No, they're really good points. So let me address them specifically. Let's say a person has a doll, and you go and you meet that person and you talk to him or her, and they say, I don't feel lonely anymore because I have this doll. You are absolutely right that you should believe that person. It's very respectful to listen to what people are saying about their real experiences. There's no denying that. But actually, you're just a visitor in that person's life. So you enter it, you find out a little bit about what's going on, and then you leave. But actually, if you were alongside that person and understood more about their childhood, their relationships in their lives, how they feel day to day, you would actually find the picture is much more complicated than that. And so this presentation of self is also much more complicated. Once you're alongside them, you know, and you're participating in their lives and they're participating in yours, actually these narratives don't work anymore. It's not so clear cut. You will find that actually there are moments in that person's lives where the doll does feel meaningless, where they feel empty and distressed and all those things. And there will be moments where, you know, the kind of fantasy does feel more embedded.
Dr. Richardson's concerns about robots possibly exacerbating things like loneliness and isolation do sound legitimate from the 30,000-foot view of society, but I don't know about making the jump to claim what sounds a lot like false consciousness when people say they are happier with their synthetic companion. Relationships with AI may never reach the complexity and richness of the ones some of us are lucky enough to have with other humans, and it does seem like it would be a big loss to humanity if a large percentage of us end up on the artificial side of the fence. But if the alternative for the most lonely among us is nothing, and no one's being hurt by these kinds of relationships, banning seems extreme. To her latter point, isn't every relationship just a story that we create? Maybe relationships with robots will require more suspension of disbelief, but any long-term relationship will have its good, bad, and ugly moments, including times where we feel lonely while in the relationship. And whether or not it's hard for me to imagine a sex robot as a satisfying cure to my own loneliness, which is definitely a thing, the argument that ideal intimacy is the only intimacy completely denies the reality that, at least for some, artificial intimacy might be good enough.